You asked for some stories about Norm Macdonald and Bob Saget, and the odd part about it is that if I had known they would die as young as they did, I would have really taken notes. I mean, I remember one time, like every time I had lunch with Norm, I would let him pay. I wouldn't put in a dime. And then one time we went out to lunch, and he waited for me to put at least $1 in. And I said, come on, why ruin the tradition? And so he put the money in again. And I remember one time doing Norm's podcast, and it was like the two of us were just going crazy and laughing, and it was like insane. And then afterwards we went to dinner, joined by Bob Saget and Jeffrey Ross. And that was like just nonstop laughing and joking. I mean, I think that dinner, if we had been secretly filmed, that would have been an award-winning comedy special. But yeah, so I still miss Norm and I still miss Bob. And but I'm sure they're happy to have like fans like you who still remember them.
On the subject of SNL, and it's sweet when you took over for Norm, and Gilbert and I haven't said anything. Gilbert, I don't know, have you spoken publicly since Norm passed about him, Gil?
I don't know if
we haven't said anything on this show, which we would like to do now. You both knew him well, but the bartender speech when you took over, and obviously it was a very awkward period for you.
Oh God!
To be stepping into that role, and also a friend's job.
Yes, yeah. It was like we lived in the same building too.
You know how you go to your favorite bar, and your local bartender isn't there? You ask, "Where's Jeff?" Jeff no longer works here. I'm Steve, and you're thinking, "Hey, who's this idiot? I like Jeff," but you still want your drink. And even though Steve doesn't mix your drink the same way you're used to, like Jeff, you still like the bar. You don't have to go to a different bar. And even Steve might feel kind of bad because Jeff trained him.
Did he ever say anything to you about that? Did he ever give you a blessing?
He was so he was so classy in not saying anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's all.
You have that great I'm Steve, what can I get you?
Yeah.
The bartender piece.
Well, I'm Steve. What can I get you?
But I wish it would have stayed the way it was. But, you know, it is what it is. But, yeah, Norman's he's so funny. He was so distinctively funny. You know?
Nobody liked him, really.
No, he had his own thing. You know what I mean? He was just very, well, like Gilbert. I mean, they just have their own, they march to their own drummer, even in a business where everybody marches to their own drummer. They both have that, you know, idiosyncratic thing where it just be like, this is how I am, and that's it. And it's great. But, you know, you have to tune to their frequency. You know, it's not like you can just, you know.
You know what's funny about that first update you did? Here's Norm being fired, as we all know, by Don Ohlmeyer,
right,
because of cutting too close to the bone with the OJ jokes, when in fact he was doing a public service by telling those OJ jokes. And I'm watching you do your first update. There's an OJ joke. It's like the third joke.
Yeah.
In the February issue of Esquire magazine, O.J. Simpson said that if I had killed Nicole, it would have been because I loved her very much. And then he said, and if I had killed Ron Goldman, it would have been because he accidentally witnessed me loving Nicole very much. Somebody should buy this guy a John Gray book, all right?
You shook his hand once, O.J.? Getting out of a car?
Well,
he was getting out of a limo?
He was getting out of a limo middle of the afternoon, and I have no psychic energy. I've never had those kinds of things, you know. But for whatever reason, this was in an afternoon. He's getting out of a limo with a girl. It's spring break. It's packed with people. It's Florida. And they're like, hey, do you want to meet OJ? I go, yeah, OJ. It's the greatest running back of all time. You know, great charming movie star. I shake his hand. He shakes my hand. And he's not even looking at me. He's looking past me. And he shakes my hand. And I felt like a joke of like evil. I swear to God.
It's like the Dead Zone.
That's what it was like. That's what it was like. And I was like, that was weird, OJ. I love OJ. Well, that was weird energy, you know.
Wow. So you picked up on something.
I feel like I did, you know. It's, of course, in retrospect. But I remember telling people at the time, so.
I was also fond of, going back to your SNL bits, Colin Quinn explains the New York Times.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And the St. Pat's editorial and Joe Blow. You look like you were having fun, and the best stuff is you and Norm together.
That's right. That's right.
There's obviously an affection that comes across on the screen.
Yes, yeah. And that was the early days of it. It was great.
I'm sorry we never managed to get him here. We tried, and for whatever reason, he was as elusive as you.
He's more elusive. He's like,
he was.
I love to do it. I'd love to. And you're like, oh, good. How about next week? Yes. What day? And you're like, okay. Yeah. He's like, all right, call him and we'll set it up. Next week is perfect because I'm doing this. And you're like, hey, I'll say Norm. Years later, what happened? What? Yeah. I thought I was going to come on your show. What happened? It's like, oh, Jesus, Norm.
Well, like you say, march to his own drum.
Yeah.
Straight to the heart. I went a long time acting like I wasn't broken apart by you.
Oh, I remember meeting OJ at a party years ago, and it turns out he was a fan.
Uh-oh.
And he did an imitation of me, and to this day, I wish I had like that on film.
Of course.
It would be like Charles Manson doing an imitation.
Yeah.